New research time, and if you're one of those consumers of the most widely used stimulant in the world, then stick around, because this one might actually be a bit surprising for you. In this video, we're going to talk about a new study that covers the ever-roasted energy-reviving substance we all know as caffeine. More specifically, the question for this video is, do you actually need a lot of caffeine to see benefits in your training? Well, the answer might be in a new 2022 meta-analysis by Jay Gerchik, a research PhD that has done multiple studies on this very topic of caffeine and exercise performance. This new analysis looked at 12 studies investigating the effects of caffeine on 3 aspects: muscular strength, muscular endurance, and mean velocity. In total, 206 participants were pooled, 88 being female and 118 being male. Now, one criteria of this analysis that differs from previous analyses is the caffeine levels. Previous research mostly covered ergogenic effects of caffeine in the range of 4 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, which is roughly about 4 to 6 cups of coffee. Here, though, studies that were included employed caffeine interventions between 1 to 2 milligrams, which is about 1 to 2 cups of coffee, generally 60 minutes before exercise. Much lower than anything before. So what did the analysis find? In muscle strength, there was a clear ergogenic performance-enhancing effect. However, this was not the case for all muscle groups, where only lower body muscles, particularly the quadriceps, saw an effect similar to the levels of high caffeine intake. It does seem that for the upper body, lower intakes aren't as effective. Mechanistically, this difference might be explained by caffeine's connection to improving motor units recruitment, or the ability of your brain and muscles to communicate and contract your muscle fibers. Larger muscles like the quads will then benefit from this increase, whereas small muscles might not. For muscular endurance, the lower caffeine doses do seem to provide an effect as well, but the data was a bit mixed in terms of it providing similar effects as higher dosages. It does seem that higher caffeine doses provide a greater effect, but on the other end, one study that directly compared 2, 4, and 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram found similar improvements across all 3 doses. Ultimately, what we can say is that at least some endurance benefits were consistently found in lower 1 to 2 milligram dosages. And finally, for mean velocity, it was clear that the low doses do provide an improvement similar to higher doses. But unfortunately, there were only 2 studies investigating this outcome. Not a lot. More data would be ideal. But overall, the main takeaway from this analysis is that it does seem relatively low dosages of caffeine, again about 1 to 2 cups of coffee, can provide an effect. And the great thing about this is that the side effects that often accompany high caffeine intake, like headaches, increased anxiety, and heart palpitations, can largely be avoided with these smaller doses. But I'm pretty sure one big question you guys are asking at this point is,
but Mr. Picturefit, what about caffeine tolerance?
Which is a totally fair question. Unfortunately, 5 of the 12 studies did not report habitual caffeine intake, so the overall data on this is unclear. The ones that did report habitual intake had mixed findings. You would think that subjects that habitually consume very little caffeine would be the only ones that benefit, but in some cases, subjects that regularly consume caffeine levels higher than their trials still saw improvements. But the data is still unclear, especially for those that have a habitually very high caffeine consumption. I think it's justified to say that the findings here probably don't apply to those people, but truly, more research is needed to come to a more roasted revelation. But if you're not one of those super high habitual caffeine aficionados, then it might be okay for you to cut back on your super scoops of pre-workout. I'd recommend shooting for the middle to high range of this analysis, about 1.5 to 2 cups of your favorite foamy beverage an hour before your workout. But if you don't think that's cutting it, then going for a bit more makes sense. Just keep an eye out for any unsuspecting jitters and unfortunate increases in productivity. And that's it for this one. I hope you guys found it useful or at least enlightening. Let me know about your caffeine experiences in the comments below. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, please give it an ergogenic thumbs up and share it with your caffeine-loving friends. Subscribe for more. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to get your protein. Preferably not caffeinated.